Welcome back to Robot Roundup. Today we're building a one-eyed mech out of a pill bottle and some soap dispensers. Ready? Let's go. I have a bunch of these square pill bottles and a lot of ideas on what to make with them. I use a rotary tool to cut the neck off the bottle. It's really messy, so I wear a good dust mask. I picked up a cheap fidget toy because it has all these beautiful hinge joints. Just look at all this great stuff. Now, we could just glue the head onto these legs and call it good. Roll the credits. But that's not why we're here. Let's take it a bit farther. I have a few of these soap dispenser pumps, and I've always thought they would make good legs for a mech. I think this is a good combination. It creates a nice silhouette. I cut down the place where the legs will connect. I sand it and then do a quick flame pass to smooth it out even more. I pop some of the hinge pieces out of the fidget spinner and glue them to the soap dispenser. For the front of the legs, I'll add some foam circles. I glue them on with super glue. I like that the shape has a little bump on the bottom and it adds a little bit more interest. I do the same thing for the other three legs. I found a dollhouse cooking pot, which is the perfect size for an eye socket. I like how the handles add a little bit more detail, like they're little flanges or something. With a circle template, I find the right size and trace it onto the body. Use an X-Acto knife to cut out the circle. Clean the cut a bit more and then do a test fit. I have another dollhouse pan, which looks like it's from the same set. I like that the sizes match. It would look good on the side of the head as maybe an antenna, or even better, a blaster. The plastic sewing bobbin fits right inside as a swivel. That T-Light battery hatch looks good for a back panel. It's also about the same circumference as the other bits. It takes a while to find the right chassis piece for attaching the legs to. I almost go with this spout, which has 4 attachment points, but it's too bulky. I settled on this plastic syringe plunger. I like that it's already divided into quadrants for the hinges. It's a bit too long, so I measure and cut it. Then I sand all the parts down. You always have to sand plastic bits to get a better glue and paint adhesion. Cut the end off the pan handle and hollow it out with a small drill to make a gun barrel. I've added some bits to make a more lasery looking blaster and glued it all together. I also added a pin for gluing it in the right place. I toyed with having it swivel, but in the end decided not to. I've also glued on the back panel. I drill holes in the hinge pieces and the chassis. And use some plastic pins to hold them together. The perfect bead adds a little bit more detail. I'll do the same thing for all 4 legs. I used the pin cutoffs for some added chassis detail. And the chassis is done. I cut down a stir stick to find the optimal length of the leg strut, and it turned out to be the same size as the paperclip, so that's a freebie. The paperclip also fits nicely into the joint. I just want the inner curves of the paperclip, so I cut a few. And I'll join them together and add some more hydraulic looking detail with some aluminum tube cuttings. I use the guides on my cutting mat to glue the leg at the ideal angle and support it while the glue dries. After gluing the first two legs in place, I use some poster putty to stick the chassis to a small cap while I glue the rest of the legs together. To finish the legs, I'll use these small half-circle beads as rivets. Dab them into a pot of super glue and attach them to the foam circle. The foam acts kind of like a sponge and it just soaks up the glue. The bottom little flange of the circle gets a larger rivet. And I add another one below it, just to seem to fit there. Now the legs are done and I take off the little cap I was using as a jig. Off camera, I made a small antenna by gluing another little plastic pin into a calculator button. Then I cut a plastic rod piece to grip the back of the button. And that completes the initial build stage. A little bit of gray primer transforms it from a colorful clown toy to an elite mechanized war machine. Burnt iron is one of my go-to colors for painting a robot chassis. And when airbrushing Tamiya paints, I always thin them. I've had good results with Mr. Color leveling thinner. It takes a while to learn the right consistency. You want it thin enough that the paint almost dries as soon as it makes contact with the model. For the body, I'll be using Mission Model Red, as well as red oxide to mix a duller red. Mission Model paints have their own thinner, and I like them because they have less fumes. I always wear a respirator and use the spray booth. I start by working my way across all the edges, giving them kind of an outline. And then with a larger spray, I lightly fill in all the big areas. This gives a subtle and worn, faded look. I do the same thing for the front of the legs. I'm hand painting all the metal details with metallic gray, which is like a gunmetal color. I should have waited to glue the spool on because it's a bit of a pain to paint underneath. I usually try and build things in components so that they can be painted separately rather than gluing it all together and then trying to mask seams or carefully paint around edges. And then I finish the leg details. I finished by dry brushing some silver to bring out the edges of the chassis. I'm using UV resin to attach the glass eye lens to its socket. I wanted like a rich, dark, glossy eye and was hoping that the resin would hold it in place to a black background piece. Drop the lens in place and then cure it. Except that this produced some trapped air bubbles, which I didn't care for. So for a second attempt, I got a new lens and just painted the back of it black. Then I used regular glue and put all the pieces together. This turned out a lot better and was way simpler. A good mech always has some dangling tubes and wiry bits hanging off of it, so I cut some thin black electrical wire and glued loops of it to the chassis. I also drilled some small holes and thread a wire from the antenna to the back of the body. Now it's time to glue it all together. The eye fits pretty snugly, and you can see where some of the paint came off from a prior test fit. So when I add weathering, I can retouch and hide little scratches like that. I'm adding some Waterslide decals. These ones are from a Gundam kit. After soaking in water for a few minutes, they slide off of the backing and onto the model. While it's wet, there's a few minutes to adjust the position. Then I use micro sol to set them. This softens the decal and sort of melts it into place. I do the same thing for an insignia number. I got this sheet from a hobby store that had a bin of random decals in the back. I found another little panel for the antenna. I have a set of different sized black cabochons. I'm taking a few of the smaller ones and glue them on as additional eyes or maybe sensors. It adds to the creepy spider look. I want to add some rust and wear marks. I start by tearing off some small bits of foam and hold it in place with tweezers. Then I use Hull Red and start dabbing on some rust spots onto some of the edges. I paint a few scratches onto the legs and also hit it with a few dabs of silver to indicate some fresher scratches and ding marks. I give the entire thing an oil wash of thinned down burnt umber oil paint. This flows into all the little nooks and crannies and adds some rust streaks to the flat parts of the body. And with that, I think it's ready to wreak some havoc. Thanks for watching. Robots rule, and so do you. See you at the next roundup.